Hey guys, Marcos Villegas here in this very, I guess, unique spin on top 10 list or just top list in general for a year-end review segment. Now, we all love lists. We all love to see like the top fights of the year, the top knockouts of the year. We all give our fighter of the year reviews and all that sort of stuff. But I decided to make a little spin on it, and I'm gonna go ahead and review the top 3 absolutely worst fights of 2014, fights in which had no business whatsoever being made, fights that made us scratch our heads and wonder why, and really wonder why we're still fans of boxing. So I'm going to list my top 3 of 2014, but before I get that list started, let's start with the honorable mention of 2014, and that unique and honorable distinction goes to a fight that happened just a few weeks ago in Canada, in Quebec City, which pitted the lineal light heavyweight champion of the world, Adonis Stevenson, taking on very unheard of, unheralded Dmitry Suhatsky, in which Stevenson beat him via KO brutally in a fight that made it very apparent Suhatsky had no business being in the ring whatsoever with Adonis Stevenson. Now, why is this a fight that it had no business whatsoever being made? Well, for one, let's give a little background of the situation. Adonis Stevenson is the lineal light heavyweight champion of the world at 175 pounds. That means he beat the man to be the man, as Ric Flair would say. He went ahead and knocked out Chad Dawson. He came into this 2014 and took on Andreas Fonfara in a fight that had a lot of people still wondering, why are you fighting this Fonfara guy if there's Pascal, there's Kovalev, there's Hopkins wanting to have fights with you that are still on the radar? Why is this fight happening? He went ahead and did that fight. I'll give Fonfara credit because he did very well. He knocked down Stevenson, and Fonfara was also a former world champion as to why that fight in particular didn't make it on this list. He was a world champion. Fonfara, even though he wasn't, I guess, the best opponent, he was ranked and he won a world title, so that leaves a little bit of credence to him as an opponent. So Stevenson goes from there to this fight, and he leaves a Pascal fight on the table. He would have made more money, would have got more, I guess, props for fighting a Pascal. A Pascal fight would have been competitive. You could give the advantage to Stevenson, but there'd be a lot of people saying, you know what, I think Pascal would win. And he leaves that. He says, nah, I'm not going to do that fight. I'm going to fight this guy by the name of Suhatsky, who's challenged for a world title 3 years ago, but since then hasn't really done much in the light heavyweight division, hasn't fought the type of opponents that I fought. And I'm going to go ahead and give him a chance at the lineal light heavyweight championship of the world. Not a good choice. Not a good idea at all, because fans were pissed. I read your guys' tweets, and really, how does a guy who's the light heavyweight champion of the world, who's lineal, go from having such a great year prior in 2013 to having 2 so-so matchups with guys who aren't really the top of his division? We want to see him fight Pascal. We want to see him fight Hopkins, Kovalev. Everybody wants to see that Kovalev fight. He's the man right now by many accounts, by many people. And the reason why people think he's the man right now is because of the competition that Stevenson has been facing in this year. No knock to Stevenson. I'm sure he wants these fights, but it's really a manager issue, I believe, on that part. So that's another thank you, Al Heyman, for that matchup. And that's the honorable mention for this list. Now let's go ahead and get this party started. Let's get the top 3 worst fights of 2014 started and underway. And the number 3 fight that should have never been made, that had people just questioning it and wondering, well, why is this fight even happening? And I love this guy. This guy's a great fighter. Was Leo Santa Cruz versus Manuel Roman on the undercard of Mayweather versus Maidana 2. Now, it was revealed in the build-up to this fight that Manuel Roman was a former sparring partner of Leo Santa Cruz, and that became very evident very quickly in the fight, as it only lasted 2 rounds, and Leo Santa Cruz knocked him out to freaking tomorrow in the second round via right hand. Now, Manuel Roman had never fought a 12-round fight. He had only fought maybe about 2 10-round fights, and the majority of his fights were 6-round fights. He wasn't even ranked at that division, at the super bantamweight division, and he gets a title fight against one of the top reigning champions. Many see Leo Santa Cruz as the number 2 guy in that division, besides Guillermo Rigondeaux. And that kind of gives you perspective. People have been wanting this Santa Cruz Rigondeaux fight, Santa Cruz Frampton, Santa Cruz Quigg, all the other champions for a very long time. And Leo himself has stated he wants those fights. So for all that background stuff to happen, for a guy, like I mentioned, was a sparring partner and not even ranked, and list of opposition was just completely terrible, to get a title shot and then be a co-headliner. It's a co-main event on Mayweather versus Maidana. That's a horrible fight, man. That fight should not be happening. You guys were not happy and you voiced your opinions. You guys, I guess, want to see, not I guess, you guys want to see the Rigondeaux fight, the Frampton fight, the Quigg fight. I think that's really, in talking with Leo Santa Cruz, it's a fight that he truly wants to make happen. But the business of boxing, you got Al Heyman again pushing his influence. So that's number 3 on the list. Thank you, Al Heyman. Let's go ahead and get number 2 on the list, which is a fight that really could have been number 1 on many of your guys' list, and that is when lineal 140-pound champion Danny Garcia went inside the ring and faced Rod Lightning Salka, or who I like to call Hot Rod Salka. Now, Rod Salka, props to him for just stepping in the ring and going up against a guy like Danny Garcia, but Rod Salka moving up in weight from 135, a division in which he was not even ranked in the top 10. I think he was like number 70-something, 73. And he goes and he gets a title shot in a division that he's never had a fight in. And he gets it against the number 1 guy in the division, the guy that beat the guy to be the guy. Danny Garcia went ahead and fought Amir Khan, who was the underdog. He was the underdog in that fight against Amir Khan. He knocked him out. And he goes and he fights Lucas Matisse. Once again, the underdog, even though he's the champion, he's the underdog in that fight and convincingly beats Lucas Matisse. And then he goes and he fights Herrera, who, you know, some people were kind of wondering, why a fight with Herrera? But as we saw, Herrera's no joke. He's a legit contender. And regardless of what you think, Danny Garcia had a really hard time with Mauricio Herrera. So he goes from those 3 fights, really top caliber competition, and then he fights Rod Salka at the Barclays Center. Now, I think a lot of people were mad. For one, why is this guy getting a title shot when that fight with Herrera just happened, and people want to see a Herrera rematch, people want to see a Matisse rematch, people want to see a Khan rematch. Now that I'm thinking, wow, there's a lot of people wanting to see rematches involving Danny Garcia. They wanted to, I guess, in a way, see Danny Garcia redeem his performance against Herrera against a top caliber opponent. And that honestly just wasn't Rod Salka. We're so used to seeing Danny challenge himself and facing the top guys in his division and beating them, that when we were approached and given this fight with Rod Salka, it pissed a lot of people off. You know, people don't want to see especially this. People don't want to see the number 1 guy, lineal, number 1. He's the man, facing guys that aren't even ranked. We want to see the man face the best. That's what makes boxing great, and really that's what made Danny great. He went ahead and fought the best, fought those fights that he needed to fight. So him fighting Rod Salka, no bueno. Let's hope we never ever see a matchup like that again, please. And once again, thanks, Al Heyman. And now, the number 1 most, I guess, talked about and really, honestly, shameful fight of 2014. Didn't even come by way of an active professional boxer. This came in Russia on the undercard of Ruslan Provodnikov versus Jose Luis Castillo, and that gives it all away. Mickey Rourke against Elliot Seymour. Now, when this matchup was announced, I thought, wow, you know, Mickey Rourke, 61. His last pro fight was like in the 90s. It's been close to 30 years since he's fought again, and he's fighting a 31-year-old. So when I read that headline, I was like, wow, you know, big props to Mickey Rourke. He leaves Hollywood, leaves, you know, $1 million movies and $1 million checks to step inside the ring and get his face punched in against a guy who's 30 years younger than him. You know, at first I was like, you know, that's a really ballsy move. We should commend him. And then the fight happened. And we saw the first round, and we saw the 31-year-old Elliot Seymour, who, even though had a record of 1-9, he's still facing a 61-year-old. So that still got me like, you know what? I'll look past that record because he's facing Rourke, who's not an active fighter. This is not his professional full-time thing. I'll look past that. But then that first round just made me shake my head and say, you know what? This 31-year-old is fighting like an 81-year-old. What's going on here? He wouldn't throw any punches, Rourke was having his way with them, and even Rourke kind of looked like he was having fun in there. Like, I don't know, to me it didn't look like a serious fight in that first round. It looked like Rourke was just messing around. And then it happened, and it happened, and it happened again. Nothing was going on. Many people online were like thinking, you know what, this fight's a joke. What's going on here? And then the body shot knockout happened. And when I saw that, I didn't know what to believe, to be honest. I looked at it and I'm like, wait, was that even a flush punch? Like, what happened? This guy had to have taken a dive. And then I go on Twitter, and all you guys respond with, this fight was fixed. This guy took a dive. This is horrible. And, at first I wanted to give Rourke credit and be like, you know what? He stepped in the ring. He did something a lot of us would never really, to be honest, have the balls to do. And he left, $1 million paychecks to come and do something. So, you know what? Give him his respect. And then it starts coming out little by little tidbits of news. Elliot Seymour's homeless. He was broke. He needed money really bad. So he took the fight. And then the affirmation of what many of you felt was fairly obvious as soon as the first minute of that fight was finished, that the fight was thrown, it was a fixed fight. And the news comes out that Elliot Seymour threw the fight, that it was just a publicity stunt for Mickey Rourke, and that these kind of things, these kind of behaviors, just give a black eye on boxing, man. We don't need this stuff in boxing. We don't need fights that are thrown and fixed, and we don't need sideshow attractions like this in which a guy who's 1-9, who's homeless, needs a lot of money, throws a fight for Mickey Rourke. Come on, the sport's better than this. There's a reason why this fight didn't happen in America. It happened in Russia. But even Mickey Rourke, he comes from a respected camp. And why throw the fight? Why do something like that? Well, what does it do for you? What does it do for boxing? It just makes everybody involved look bad. And now look what happens. They're gonna find out if this fight was fixed. Like, if you're hiding something, that goes for any fight. Like, if it's a horrible fight, you're gonna hear about it and you're gonna find out. So don't do it. That's, I guess, the message I leave for 2015. Please just concentrate on making the best fight the best. That's what makes boxing great. That's what made 2013 so great, is finally we got to see the number one guy take on the champion and not these other fringe contenders or these other guys that are ranked 6, 7, 8. We saw the best fight the best. And we're hoping for 2015 we get more of what we saw in 2013, and really we don't get any more Rourke versus Salkas or all that mess that I just talked about. So those were the absolutes, I guess, worst fights of 2014. They're bad. I even feel bad saying worst because I like a lot of these guys in these fights. They're great fighters. But yeah, less of that, more of champions facing champions, more unifications, and more the best fighting the best.